Okay, I got the red smoke.
Gun runs north to south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke.
Okay, copy. West of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now.
Come on with it, baby. Give it to me. I need it. You're cleared hot.
Copy, cleared hot.
It's a little heavy, but it's actually a real helmet. It's been tested to take impacts and stuff, so it's
120 mile an hour impacts?
yeah, probably not that fast.
Can we just be honest and say that any helmet you wear for skydiving is to mount your GoPro on?
Pretty much, exactly. It's
Or help keep your sunglasses on your face?
It is a $500 GoPro mount, but it's cool because I've got the uranium visor on it, and it's, of course, just for the looks because it looks bitchin'.
Can they see your eyes?
No.
That's how I select my sunglasses.
That's the way I like it. They shouldn't be looking at my eyes. They should be looking at my hand signals, right?
I would rather wreck my car driving than let somebody see what I'm looking at. Like my sunglasses, I need my sunglasses to be mirrored at all times.
Exactly.
Oh, this is going to be fun. I cannot kick this goddamn cold. The SHOT Show will kill you or Vegas will kill you. I don't understand how you live there.
Or both. Yeah.
But I suspect you don't go to the Strip, which is what most people consider Vegas to be.
Exactly. No, we have avoided at all costs. I mean, it's we have people in town or something going on or whatever, people visiting. We roll down there, but for the most part, we avoid it.
Yeah, it would. I'd be okay if they tested nuclear weapons on that Sunset Boulevard.
New for morbid.
Yeah, just like a 100 megaton perhaps. Just nuke that thing. Every time I go to that show, I get sick. Which, as we were discussing, is the shooting, hunting, outdoor trade show.
I know. Well, thank you for that bit of intel. That was a piece of intel I've just learned actually last week.
I bet you most people there don't know what the name of the show is.
It'd be interesting to walk around the show and just walk up to random people and go, "Hey, do you know what SHOT stands for?"
Free SIG. If you know what SHOT stands for, they're like, gun, shooting, home goods. Yeah,
home goods.
Oh man, where would you like to start, Triple S? I mean, obviously we'll have to dig into that at some point in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think probably both of us, looking back, let's call it 5 years, would have never thought that I would have had a podcast or be living in Montana or that you would be on the podcast.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I think we've all been around that turn. Like, wow, I could never have imagined myself being here right now, doing this right now. So. Yeah, I would never have imagined in a million years that you'd be a podcast guy. But
I wouldn't either. Like I said, if it wasn't for the suggestion of somebody else who was pretty well established in that, it's not something I would have ever thought about. Mostly because I consider myself to be a highly functioning idiot, an emphasis on the idiot and not so much on the highly. So, but the feedback has been bizarre. You would actually, I think you'd have to come out of your shell a little bit. Sometimes you're hesitant to use your big boy words.
I just don't like. I'm a little bit more private than.
Sure you are.
Letting the cat out of the bag.
I was thinking. I just think today about you coming up and how funny it was that we were actually going to link up and do this. I was trying to remember. I know the first time I saw you, but I don't know the first time we ever actually interacted. Because the first time I met you, I was beneath your social status / circle for you to interact with.
Come on, man. Dude, you've brought this up before.
But now's the best time to bring it up because it's 100% accurate.
Okay.
So we'll rewind. 2002, it was October-ish. I just made it through selection. You guys were overseas on the...
Car's Eye Detail.
Yeah.
Oh.
The Car's Eye Protection Detail. Post the ambush that had happened on Car's Eye, and you guys were rotating. The large majority of the squadron was rotating back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or was it just a troop? I don't know.
Well, we did a few handful of rotations back and forth, but we were prepping to turn it over to Dynacorp.
Speaking of, they had some of the most amazing handlebar mustache / dick brooms I've ever seen. Full just coverage down all the way. And it's like, wow.
Yeah. I can remember one of the guys actually showing up to one of the the watch stations out we had by the front gate. He had a leather biker vest on.
I remember this man.
I remember watching him walk up and I'm like, I'm not seeing this right now. This isn't I'm in Afghanistan, I'm in Kabul. I'm on the Car's Eye compound, downtown Kabul. and there's a guy walking towards me right now with a handlebar mustache and a leather vest.
A biker
Looks like
vest.
he just literally just slung a leg over a Harley.
Yeah, or actually swung it off the Harley
Off
after
the
putting
Harley.
the kickstand down.
Exactly. Like,
Yep.
where did this guy come from?
We'll take it from here, boys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but so you guys were rotating out. I was finishing selection. Obviously, you guys, the command got to the very bottom of the roster of available people. So they said, you know what? You guys going to the squadron I was going to, you guys can just go head overseas and augment these guys. And I was like, all right. And that's when I met Pete for the first time. I think I met him playing Madden football. Mm-hmm. By the way, I dominated him in every aspect of that game. And then I remember pretty distinctly the first time I saw you, because I would say you have an absolute tier 1 resting bitch face. And you were up on a goddamn wall where you always were in your little sniper's perch and just looking down upon everybody that you considered beneath you, physically and metaphorically, which of course I fell into that category. And then just remember your just bitch face gaze, just looking out and then seeing these new guys, you're just like, you disgust me.
I don't really remember it that way.
I don't think we actually had an exchange at that point. I just happened to be there. I think we were actually on opposing shifts. I think your shift was coming on when mine was coming off. But yeah, that's the first. I remember the first time I saw the Triple S, though.
The Triple S.
I do not remember how we ended up working together and becoming friends, though. I don't know when those two bridged.
I can distinctly remember. I left the squadron for a short period of time to go down into air ops to start taking over the tandem course, the tandem program. And I literally remember just walking into the airloft one day, and you were kind of just sitting at one of the desks, and I think it was Stegmeyer, and he's like, hey, this is Andy. He just came out of gold, and it was, of course, right after you got blasted, and he's like, hey, he's gonna be working in the air ops shop with us. I was like, right on, cool. So I think a week or two went by, and we,
without you speaking to me, probably,
yeah, admittedly, sorry. And I remember you're like, hey, I think you had invited, because you were kind of still obviously attached to the squadron. You were just down there kind of on a recovery cycle, and you're like, hey, I've got this guy Mark Twight coming out to do a seminar for us. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I think we kind of got into that whole, I don't want to use the C word, but
exercise methodology.
Yeah.
That's what it was at the time.
Totally. And it I don't even think it really had a name at the time.
Well, Twight's gym was originally actually a CrossFit affiliate.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, he was one of the actual first. Now, I can't say that with that level of certainty. I would say within one of the first 100, but he actually was listed on the CrossFit website underneath one of their affiliates. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say it was his exposure to that methodology, because Dwight as well as I do. His knowledge base is fucking robust, and he's been training like a madman and doing stuff at a crazy physical level for decades at this point. But I do know that he had a direct relationship with Greg, who was the founder, and so that he was actually the nucleus for me to find CrossFit was through Dwight, actually. I've talked with him about it.
Yeah. Well, the way I understood it was actually, I think Mark actually told me that him and Glassman actually went to college together.
It's possible.
And
I've never
started to
asked
kind
him,
of come up with this theory about basically functional fitness. And anyway, but going back to that way, I remember we did the seminar with Dwight, and that's actually when I met Kurt as well.
I think there was only 6 or 7 of us in there.
Yeah.
It was very, very small in that little conference room.
Small little group, and we had a handful of guys out of your squadron, and I think me.
Yeah, the people I could talk into it. Nobody was very interested.
That was it. And after that, I remember we started training together, and pissed a lot of people off in the gym. Remember that? Remember I
pissed off Hutch.
Pissed off Hutch, dude. Remember when the CO I ended up elbowing the command master chief off a piece of the pull-up bar or something, and I ended up getting reprimanded. Remember that?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Let's just say we were going down a different path than most people at that time. Up until finding that, I don't know about you, I was full on back and buys, chest and tries, and leg day was going for a run.
100%. It was I'll say it, it was something that certainly changed my outlook and my path my fitness path for sure. It completely changed it. I mean, I took an exit and never looked back.
Just remember, like, we would do those workouts where we were pushing the freaking little buggies around, and people were just looking at us like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah,
like a rolling shit show. And Hutch just hated everything that we were doing.
Yeah, you guys better be careful with that kettlebell. You're gonna throw a shoulder out.
I wonder if he's still mad at me. I said some rude things to him over the years.
When you challenged him on the, you said, Hutch. By the way, for anybody listening,
this is probably not going to be a kids-friendly show.
Yeah. Anybody listening, this is Hutch was the what was he? He was the physical therapist in our gym, and he had a pretty good background, but wasn't the most physical specimen on the planet. And we were in the gym one day, and Hutch came out and he started critiquing something we were doing, and I remember, dude, you were like, Hutch, if you can do one pull-up, I'll listen to anything you have to say, and if you can't, get the fuck out of my face. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is my new best friend. I'm like, this is awesome. And I distinctly remember he kind of just turned around and walked away. He's like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah, he was pushing max tension on his buttons for sure. Every button of every piece of clothing. He hit it a very traditional, I think, strength and conditioning background through football.
Mm-hmm.
Which I understand the idea of bringing in athletic trainers, but it's a different type of athlete and tough to understand, I think, from a game that has I think it's a 60-minute for football, 4 15-minute quarters and half an hour break in between.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember doing anything that was boundaried by those time limits.
No, certainly not. It was typically from the time the sun went down till it came up, for the most part.
So you took over the tandem course. Were you at the course when I went back? Or when I went through, or were you doing the course when Jonesy was doing the turnover?
Yeah, actually, Jonesy turned over to me.
Was it during the course that I was going through, though?
I don't remember. You went through under Jonesy?
Yes, but I remember you being, because about at that time is when, so we started working out, but then we started working together at that point, and it accelerated beyond that point because I think we both had an interest in going down the air ops path.
I think you probably went through one of the early courses with Jonesy, and then I think we both were going out and supporting the course, because that's what I would do. I would literally every tandem course I would go out and support as an instructor, and then ultimately ended up taking it from Jonesy. But
because I don't remember on our tandem terminal jump, I set the drogue as the passenger because we were going to die. And I either remember pulling you aside or Jonesy and being like, "Hey man, I need to tell you something."
Yeah, actually, I do remember that. It might have, that you might have been in the course that we were doing a turnover. Although I don't really remember much of that turnover course because, as you know, Jonesy literally would leave the course, go to the bar, start drinking Crown, and then leave there at 4, and then show up for a jam brief at 5, and repeat for 3 weeks. So I don't really remember a whole lot of the tandem course.
Those courses would age you in dog years.
Oh my gosh,
for sure.
It was fun.
What just for the benefit of people who are listening, we should talk about how you even got into the military in the first place, because we skipped ahead quite a few years into your career. So you are from Vegas, correct?
Yeah, originally from California.
Where in Cali?
Chino, and then Diamond Bar.
I know where Chino is, not Diamond Bar.
Diamond Bar is it's not far away. Probably a little bit more east and inland. So, got moved up to Vegas. My parents wanted to move us up there because my mom's parents lived there. When I got into high school, learned how to scuba dive as a sophomore, and my biological father actually turned me on to the SEAL teams, and so that was pretty much my direct focus when probably as a young junior in high school.
Did he have any connection to it at all? Or?
No, not at all. He was in the Army. He did his time in the Army in Vietnam. And
decided to tell you about SEALs?
Yeah, well...
Interesting.
Well, I think what kind of got the ball rolling was my interest in scuba diving in the water. Even as a young kid, I was in and out of the water all the time. I think I was 6 years old and had a mask and fins. But he told me about the SEAL teams. I was like, wow, that sounds really cool. Yeah, I got out of high school, straight into the teams, or buds, and then right back to the East Coast. And
Class 65?
Yeah, 165. I'm not that old.
Jesus was your swim buddy.
No,
it never gets old.
not that old. But fast forward and ended up at the command in 99. And
what was your first duty station?
SDV 2.
So Little Creek.
Yep, Little Creek.
Did you guys just dive your asses off?
Yeah, I literally.
How would you describe that job? I've actually never talked about it because I've only seen an SDV one time, and I fucking ran the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Because I was terrified of being put in the back of it.
My class, I think probably 60% of the guys in my class went to SDV, just because of manning issues and stuff. But
that's good for morale.
When I got there, I wasn't super pumped about it.
I was going to say that's good for morale for your class.
Yeah, exactly. So first of all, I wanted to go. I think I put down on my a dream sheet 1, 3, and 5, and then they're like, okay, cool, SDV 2, perfect.
I put on mine 2, 4, and 8, and they gave me 5.
There you go.
Because I was from the West Coast and I wanted to go see the East Coast.
Yeah, I wish I would have. Yeah. Anyway, so I went back to SDV, and the training pipeline for SDV is so long. We go through the regular STT, SEAL Tactical Training. It's called SQT now, but and then right into AOT, which is all the water stuff with the SDV. So we spent literally 7 months in Puerto Rico diving every day. I think our shortest dive would be 3 hours, longest being probably somewhere around 8. And
it's just two. I mean, were there people in the back, or you're just learning to drive, navigate?
Towards the end, we started putting guys in the back, but it was primarily just pilot navigator. Just 2 guys in the front, and we're just what we called flying the boat.
Do they flip flop?
No,
do you learn how to do both, or do you specialize in one?
You learn how to do both, but what happens is they kind of choose, like, okay, this guy's a better pilot than a navigator, and vice versa. So I ended up being a primary pilot for my task unit when I went back into the, when I got back to the command. And I tell you, it's obviously very just the mental challenge of knowing when you're getting in the water, you're going to be in the water for 8 to 10 hours. Like, that was probably the biggest hurdle, to get past. But I'll tell you, it was looking back on it now, because I joined the SEAL teams to be a SEAL and to do SEAL stuff, frogman stuff, and it was looking back on it now, awesome, because it's like real frogman.
It draws right back to the origin, the maritime origins of the SEAL teams.
Yeah, because as all the other stuff, running and gunning and running around in the mountains with all the other stuff we do, the Army does that. There's a lot of military units that do that stuff, but nobody does that waterborne mission. And looking back on it, it was a great experience, and I definitely I was lucky to get to do it. We would leave. I remember it was an E5, dude. An E5. I'm in I don't know how much the thing cost, $2 million piece of equipment, locking out of a submarine off the coast of Spain. No buoy, no dive soup, nothing. It's me and my navigator. He's an E6. So we're talking like some very low-ranking dudes.
Combined knowledge of maybe 12 years between you guys.
Not even. I think at the time I had 3 years in the Navy, 3 or 4 years in the Navy at the most. I was getting
maybe 9 years then.
Yeah, right. So, and off we go. We're just literally flying this boat at 20 feet through the middle of the ocean, and heading into some harbor to go do go do a practice, limpet mine hit or something. But looking back on it, I'm like, wow, that was it was cool. It was fun.
Have you ever thought about learning how to fly? Because I think your experience would be very similar to the SDV, because I've flown you around.
100%. Actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because I remember being at the command right before I left, and they're like, hey, do you want to go to pilot cell? Which, as you know, that was an option for a lot of guys. And I was kind of tossing around the idea, and I had several friends that were over in the pilot cell, and like, well, and I think I got a little bit of a negative vibe out of it. But, looking back, I kind of wish I would have done it. It's certainly something that's interested me a very long time, just because, I've been jumping out of planes since forever. But yeah,
I think that you would have found it to be so similar. Like the Cirrus, I would,
oh, I know.
the freaking Vegas taxi, zip out there. The avionics suite, I'm sure it was probably more advanced than what you guys had in the SDV, just because it was decade plus later.
For sure.
But if you think about the concepts, like it's a lot of dead reckoning. It's it's completely checklist based. There's a checklist for pre-flight, for startup, for taxi, for takeoff. I'm assuming you guys were doing the same thing in the boat. Navigational plots, time, fuel.
Yeah.
Like that's all it was. I think you would find you would either hate flying because you're like, oh my God, this is like driving an SDV, or you would love it because you'd say it's like driving an SDV, but the view is way better.
Way better. Yeah, you're not in the water for 7-8 hours, and you're not going into hypothermia towards the end, and worried if your rig is going to flood out or not. We were diving the Mark 15. Oh my gosh.
Is that the mixed gas one?
Yeah. No.
Did you ever just reach over and just like start twisting knobs on your buddy? Those are the things that I think about. I'm just like, just start twisting the knob.
There was plenty that can go wrong. You really didn't have to do anything.
That was the one that had like the Christmas tree lights, right? And like
on your wrist, yeah, you had the Christmas tree lights on your wrist, and there was You
just needed them to all be one color.
I don't remember. As long as I was breathing and wasn't getting dizzy, I was. It's like this thing's functioning fine.
I don't know if it's possible to describe to somebody what 8 hours underwater feels like. Like I've done exhaustion dives on like a LAR 5, where by the end of it, I'm literally just like outgassing out of my nose as much as possible, trying to breathe my oxygen bottle down, just like, and just it's horrendous.
Yeah.
And multiply that by 2 if that was your halfway point.
Yeah. I can distinctly remember we were doing a training hit on a battleship in Norfolk, and we left out of Little Creek, and I remember being in the water. It was December. I was literally going on leave like the next day, and we were in the harbor, and I remember, sun's about to go down, dive the boat, and we went and did our deal and came back. And I remember when we surfaced and I popped up out of the water, it was the sun was coming up. and I could talk. I think some way on our transit back from Norfolk Harbor, which was about a 2.5 hour transit, I lost my voice for some reason. I don't know. Just being in the cold water, and
it's perfect. It's probably going to really extend your life. Yeah. We're both going to drop dead in our late 50s.
Oh,
just
yeah.
completely. And I actually think I'd rather do that than lick flavor windows and just have it be a slow, insidious decline.
Absolutely.
So SDV 2, and you got there in 99, you said?
I got to SDV 2.
No, wait, definitely not 99 if you were class.
No. Actually, I went to selection in 99.
Because you had broken service, correct?
I did. So I did. I got out at the end of 92.
Why'd you decide to get out?
I was a punk. I remember my first deployment as a new team guy. I had long hair, rode a skateboard all over the compound. I mean, people were just like, "Who is this dude?" And I didn't.
So when I
appreciate
met
it.
you in 2002, nothing had changed.
That's not true. That's not true. So yeah, I got out for about a year and a half. Worked for a friend of mine in Vegas, and I was like, I can't do it anymore. And ended up getting back in. They're like, hey, we'll let you back in the military, but you have to go back to SDV 2. But we're going to send you to sniper school. And I was like, I don't care. I'll do whatever you want. And
because you saw clear and present danger.
Yeah,
he had lunch here, sir. Double bacon cheeseburger.
The irony was they actually offered me sniper school to stay in, and I was like, whatever. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So fast forward a year and a half, sniper school, back at 2. I did actually 2 more deployments there in the recce cell. And
so now you were in the back of the boat.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is my own curiosity. So there's an SDV command. They have people who specialize up front, and then there's people who only specialize in the back.
Yeah, usually I wouldn't use the term specialize in the back. It literally, all you have to be is dive qualified to ride in the back of an SDV.
Okay.
And you can
even for the extended dives?
Yeah. Because literally all you're doing is a transition. So, for example, if you're in the back of the boat and you're going into harbor, on open circuit for whatever X number of hours. And then, as you know, when you transition to the closed circuit, it doesn't last that long. So once you enter the harbor, no bubbles, no troubles. Yeah. So you transition.
No bubbles, no troubles. Oh my God, I haven't heard that in years.
Bringing it back.
Oh my God.
So yeah, you would transition over. All you'd have to do is just transition over to your LAR-5 and then go do your thing and then back in the boat. And
I guess I didn't realize they were breathing open circuit in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, is that on boat?
The whole boat is.
Really?
Boat air. Yep.
Well, that goes to show you my depth of knowledge and understanding of that. Okay, I thought for some reason they were on the same, the Mark 15s.
Well, there's 16s now, and I don't even know what they're diving now. There's probably something even.
I've heard they've gone beyond the LAR-5 as well.
Yeah.
You know who's really stoked that they don't know what they're diving right now? This guy right here.
Yeah,
because that means I'm not diving that fucking thing.
I'm good. My diving days are they're pretty much over.
So you got out in 92, back in
into 92. So back in 95-ish, 96. A couple years there at SDV 2, and then screened and went to selection in 99.
Why'd you decide to put in for selection?
That's what I wanted to do it early on in my career, but just never did because I was too immature to do it.
Did you even know that it existed before you went into the military?
I kind of did, but not really.
I had no idea. So my experience, I'm assuming when you were in Virginia Beach, you would run into some guys that were attached there, or you would know people.
It was kind of like, this is of course after I was at the command at 2, and I would, you'd hear about the guys running around town with like long hair and beepers, right? You
at least knew that it existed. So from a West Coast perspective, went through 212, last hardest buds class on record. It's not a big deal. And you run into nobody there on the West Coast because there's no reason, especially pre 9/11. There's no reason.
Sure.
I went to A school on the Dam Neck Navy Annex. I was at OS. I had absolutely no idea.
Never even knew it was
that
there.
the north side of the base was what it was. You'd hear like some gunfire and some stuff going, like explosions going off, probably breaching charges. Now that I think back, no clue. I didn't even know that command existed. So I went to the West Coast, and in my first platoon, 2 of the senior guys were screening to go. One of them eventually made it. One of them made it, not eventually, and the other one did not. But he went off to another one of the color squadrons up towards D.C. And whether they made it or not, they never came back. So the information, like all the guys who screened from the West Coast, they would go but never come back.
Right.
So
of course. Nobody comes back.
Well, pass or fail. You didn't get any more information. So I didn't really have a really good idea or understanding of what it was until I was starting my second platoon, and I finally was like, what is this? And then I was like, oh, yes, I want to screen for that immediately. But I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Even having spent 8 weeks at OSA school, probably half of a mile from
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, it was, guys just didn't talk about it.
Yeah. That's a huge point for sure.
At the time, obviously it's very different now. At the time the command did a very good job of, being the silent professional, and even from its own community. You think about that. Think about what it took to keep that kind of, compartmentalized away from the. I mean, literally, we worked in the same community, like team guys and team guys. You know, it's like there's not a whole lot of difference there, and it's like so many guys have actually just described what you just did. I mean,
no clue,
no idea.
Yeah,
especially on the West Coast for sure.
Well, guys are like, oh, I'm training to go through selection. I'm like, cool, selection for what? And they're like, it sounds like this. I'm like, well, what do you need to do to train for selection? They're like, I don't know. We think you got to run a lot.
Yeah.
Come to find out, it's because the green team cadre in the years before had run a ton. So the only beta making it back was you better have your cardio game on point.
Yeah.
So when I was trying to screen, or when I went through screening, it's so funny, man, looking back now at the selection process. because I also was a complete punk when I was a new guy. I lost my trident 6 weeks after it was given to me. There's nothing like having a commanding officer slide a pair of scissors across the desk as you're standing there in camis with a sewed-on trident. He's like, why don't you go ahead and cut that off?
Really?
Oh, yeah.
My God.
6 weeks. Pulled a knife on a guy in a bar in Arizona, evaded 8 cop cars in a helicopter. But it was just so stupid and didn't even realize that we had told the cops who we are and where we were staying. So they just went to the base and waited for me.
Wow.
And he didn't take my NEC, but he took my bird. And so the very first question that I get asked when you go into the horseshoe, right, and you're dead, you're dead center. And I had already done, you do the PT test, and everybody's like, oh, what are the standards? And like, they're so dumb. It's run, swim, pull up, push up.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're physically able to be a SEAL, you should be physically able to pass that. But then there's the psych written test, the psych evaluation, and then the oral board. Yeah. First question out of the psych the psychologist, actually the first question was, how much do you drink? And I was like, oh, fuck. And then
how can I lie about this?
No, I was like, I don't know. I mean, I drink recreationally. He's like, well, how many drinks would you have? And I was somewhere between 2 to 40 a night. And he was just like, oh my God. And he's like, have you ever broken the law? And I said, yeah, I broke the law today. And he was like, what? And I was like, I definitely was going over the speed limit. And he actually sat there for a minute. He's like, nobody answers like this. He's like, I'll have somebody come in here and tell me they never break the law. Like, they want to be so straight and narrow that they will refute. Like, do you ever jaywalk? No, sir, I don't ever jaywalk. Do you ever speed? No, sir, I never speed. I'm like, let's just go the other way with this. The next question was, okay, tell us about Tucson. And then I go into my oral board the next day, and the number one question, the first one was, well, why don't you tell us about Tucson and what you learned? I was like, fuck. I thought I was screwed from the get-go.
Who was on the board? Do you remember? Perry Bruce.
Perry Bruce was on there.
Not to start name dropping. But.
So who's the Gold Squadron? I can't remember his last name for the life of me. Aaron. He was the Gold Squadron CMC when I got there. I can't remember his last name for the life of me. I know the other name. We should not name drop.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Just for their own benefit. I have, people can judge me how they want. They can judge others how they want, and I'll leave that judgment to other people. But yeah, so I basically answered it like, yeah, I'm actually glad this happened. I learned a shit ton from it. And this is the way that it's changed my behavior. I would never let it happen again. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. We moved on. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I didn't really know what to prepare for.
Yeah. Nobody does. Yeah, for sure. That was, it was interesting. That whole process, screening process.
It was, because it was totally divergent from what happened when you actually get there. So the beta I got was, you got to run. So I was doing 70 to 80 miles a week of running. Wow. It was one of the lightest times I've ever been in my life. I think I was 180.
Yeah.
I had my old badge from the command, and it was like I would have just started a leaf blower for a hot dog at that point. I was just like, I was the fastest runner that I've ever been, and just knows, because I was doing the same thing, back and bias, just in tries, and I was just running and running and running. And then the cadre switched out, and I think we did 2 runs.
Oh, really?
Like 2 total runs.
Oh, wow, man.
And I'm just sitting there like, God damn it, because I trained for like 10 months for that thing. Wow. The whole time on my last pre-9/11 deployment, right to the screening, right to getting orders, and then it's like, God, let's go for some. I'm like, you guys want to run? I'm ready to run. Oh, wow. We're not running?
We definitely did the, not the name drop, but Art Tolke, who...
That was the name that got passed. He put a dip in and just go.
Was a machine. And the guy would just... I mean, when Art showed up, like when we do PT in the morning at Green Team, and a lot of times we'd look around like, all right, it's kind of eyeballing all the cadre, like, all right, what's in store for us today? What's the torture session? And if Art rolled up with his camelback on, you were like, oh, here we go. It's going to be a 10-mile minimum at about a 6:30 to 7-minute pace. Stand by, go.
I heard horror stories if you were to throw a dip in on top of that, like it was just giddy up time.
Yeah, totally. It was good. I didn't get the running memo.
That's the only memo I got. You saw how well it served me. They're like, you need to be ready to run, and we did 2. And then
you probably had a bunch of Blue Squadron guys as your cadre.
Yeah, Newey was running it.
Most of the guys in blue just smoke cigarettes. So
yeah, I mean, well, Pete was running it. He came in over the top, and then it actually was quite a few of the gold guys I ended up working with later on. It was pretty cool. It was an interesting selection process for sure.
Yeah, Newey. I mean, he was certainly a machine as well. So
Yeah. Holy cow! How do we get on that rabbit hole?
I don't know.
All right, so you're back. You're in selection in '99, and then continue on. So it was still pre 9/11. You've already done quite a bit, but it's still pre 9/11.
Yep, pre 9/11. Doing our usual, doing our workups, spec tray, all that stuff, and just really just immersing myself in the squadron and just loving it. I mean, that was gonna be
my question. What'd you think when you got upstairs?
I was like, this is it. I mean, I just got to the.
Did you feel that way when you were going through selection as well?
I kind of did. I saw the way. Just the way training was ran, the assets we had just during training. I mean, in the regular teams, it's when a helicopter actually shows up for a training event,
let alone takes
my gosh,
off.
This is crazy. But every single thing we did there was, it was right there. We had every single asset, and we had, the best the money could buy. And
I knew I was in the right place when they said it's your turn to go to supply. And I just went, and the guy goes, go get 4 shopping carts. And I said, excuse me? He's like, get 4. And he started pulling off name brand items in the plastic or box and would say, do you want another one? And of course I was like, yes. Because coming from, the pre 9/11 conventional teams, it's like, I need to get a new Spyderco. They're like, where's your other one?
Exactly.
I lost it. You can't have another one. Okay, cool. I guess I'll just go spend my E3 paycheck on a Spyderco.
Not to backtrack, dude, but when I was at 2, I was literally going out into town and paying to have like my gear modified and built because the stuff we got was just substandard in my opinion. And I remember going to,
or it didn't fit right. It was very modular. It wasn't specified to the operator at all. It was just super template. Like, here you go.
I remember we went to this place, and old team guys will definitely know this, especially on the East Coast, London Bridge.
Oh yeah.
I remember we'd go to this place. London Bridge was like a little place on the corner with 7 or 8 sewing machines and some people in there, and you'd go in there and you drop off your gear and like, I want this here, I want this pouch here, and they would tweak it, and I mean it was like. That was it. But, I mean, I knew the second we started really training in Green Team, especially when we went to Shaw's, I was like, this is it. That's
how I felt too.
This is it. And I don't know about you, but a lot of guys, you either thrive or, it's fight or flight. It's you either immerse yourself in it and really take it on board and just learn and crush it, or
you can either perform in those situations or you can't. I remember so specifically the first evolution that we did at Shaw's. So how would you describe selection? 6 months of broken up into chunks of core competencies. Mm-hmm. I know that it has shifted a little bit. We started with admin, getting all the gear. We went to Shaw's, shooting, and then we went to jumping. And after jumping for us is where they split assault versus boats. Mm-hmm. But I remember very specifically at Shaw's. Shaw's is at a broad level, we'll just call it clearance. And you start with your pistols, and then you move to the rifles later on if you're still around. Mm-hmm. And it started with 2- and 4-man pistol entries. And I remember the main instructor got up, and there was a chalkboard, and he drew up the room, on the left-hand side of Shaw's that you and I could draw right now from memory because of the thousands of runs, exactly where the door is, how it opens, where the knob is, the direction. And mind you, when you're getting ready to go into the kill house in selection, it is a 1-to-1 ratio. Mm-hmm. There is one set of eyes watching you and just probably hoping and praying that you mess up because it is a selection course, not a refinement course for sure. But I remember this brief. It was like, okay, this is how we do it. One guy goes across the threshold of the door. When you're ready, you do this. You go there and enter. And I go fucking line it up. I was like, holy shit.
Yep.
And we went live on the first run. So I went down there, and I remember my very first run with my pistol. And I went in, and I just blasted every single target. And then Ren was like, took a wrap off. I'm like, oh, my God, I hope those were all shoot targets. And they were. And I just had to back it off from there. I was so amped at the door on that first run. I just went in and just shot everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, as you know, I mean, that's where...
the screws started coming off the bus for people.
Most guys get weeded out. And it's certainly during the pistol phase, just because, we're shooting the... SIG 226, and it's
faithful.
It's a single double action with a decock, and there's a lot going on with that gun. And if you've never shot before, not a recommended gun to start on. But I remember so many times going in there with a buddy, and we call the room clear, and next thing you know, somebody up in the rafters is like, decock, number 2 man, no decock, fail. Just
Yep.
safety violation, and see you at the animal house. And
because for people listening, there's a procedure on how to clear, which is based on angles at a broad level, but there's also procedures you have to follow with weapons handling. Position, where you're going to point it, where your hands can be, when it could be. If you're firing, obviously it'll go from double to single action because the slide kicks it into single action, but you have to decock before certain calls, before moving, like all of that stuff, and it detonates.
Yeah.
Pretty good. It would detonate guys who I will say are very good SEAL operators. You get into that environment where you can perform or you cannot.
100%.
And there's something to be said for a set of eyeballs just assigned to you.
Yeah, and the whole point of it is to, without actually, pointing guns at guys and shooting real bullets at them, is to put them under, a maximum amount of stress and just see how they perform. And so you're able to, go through those procedures systematically as you're told, obviously for safety reasons. But guys, it comes off the rails in a hurry. Yeah, I remember. We had some guys in our class that was, they were like top performer, physical specimens, and we got the Shaws, and guys just next thing you know, literally, and you remember this, like, you'd finish up at the end of the day, and there'd be an X number of guys, lined up in front of the animal house to get counseled.
Yeah, sign their safety violations.
You'd wake up the next morning and go out to PT, and there'd be a couple guys that you weren't even there.
Yeah,
like that quick. They'd be out in a matter of hours after the animal house. They'd be packing their
chicken or steak, window or aisle.
I was gonna say, dude, aisle or window, bro. You got a one way, and yeah.
It was interesting too. I didn't notice this going through, but I can think back on it. Once momentum started building in the wrong directions for some guys, it was impossible for them to overcome.
Yeah.
One safety violation would be get 2, and then once they hit that, it is. But it's also, if you get enough, it's almost like your body starts glowing, and like other instructors are just like, looking down at this particular. Now you got 2 sets of eyes on you.
Yeah, and then the spotlight comes on you.
Yeah,
that's what we called it. It was like once you're spotlighted, and now there's even more pressure because you're the guy. Thankfully, I was never the guy. I was the guy that nobody barely knew my name, thank God. But, once you're the guy and the spotlight's on you,
bro,
even the pressure just compounds itself. And next thing you know, I remember being outside the house, just like, you got this, man. You're good, bro. You got it, man. Just decock. Just take your thumb and just swipe it, bro.
I was having different conversations. Don't fuck this up. Oh, God. Just make it through this run. Just make it through the day.
And it certainly didn't help that it was in Memphis in June, too.
Oh, man.
Guys are just like almost blacking out outside the house, or dehydrated. And
heat stroked, yeah.
Yeah.
When did they make the or when you were going through in 99, was it still a combined, they would do boats and assaults and they would split at some point?
Mm-hmm. No, we didn't have any boat guys in our green team.
They had their own.
They ran a separate course for them.
Huh. Because 3 years later, when I went through, we all went through, but they even actually said it in the interview process. It was one of the last questions I got. They said, hey, you're obviously screening for this command, but if we were to only give you the option to go to the boat squadron, what would you say? And of course the answer they're looking for is, I'll take whatever chance I can get.
Yep.
So we went through Shaw's and then jumping Marana, which was awesome for me. I was like, giddy up. This is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last day, Newey gets up on the podium. He goes, all right, gentlemen, how do you want it? Do you want me to read the names of people going to assaults or the names of people going to boats?
Oh, you didn't know?
We had no idea until that day.
Gosh, wow.
And so I think the decision was made, read the names alphabetically of people who are going to boats. And so people would just sit there and hope to God that their last name got skipped.
Wow.
And
that's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah. No, in our class, I don't know how they do it. I never saw the draft, if you will, play itself out upstairs. But from my understanding, they take the files, and there's a certain number of people who go straight to assaults, and then after that, they start divvying it up. And I don't know what that's based on.
Well, now, I mean, no, it's just all SWIC guys.
For sure.
Yeah.
But during our time period, I was told that there was essentially a draft, and they would sit down and they would like, hey, well, we want this skewed, and they would skew stuff around. And
yeah, they're pulling all the shooters out for sure.
Correct. So they took the top 5 performers in the class. They immediately went to assaults, and I guess after that they would go around, and basically each squadron would be able to pull who and how they wanted. But yeah, let's just say we had a party that Friday.
I bet. Yeah, that's interesting, man.
Some of us were happier in the party than others. Some of us were happy drinking. Some of us were sad drinking.
Hey, but I mean, the guys that went to the gray side and
they still were able to transition over. Yeah, and they were eventually able to rotate themselves up back to the assault squadron for sure.
They ultimately ended up in the squadron.
Yeah, I had the same experience though when I was like, oh, this is the 160th while in a training pipeline. This is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Or all the trips that we would go to. Or the gear that we would be issued. Here's your brand new firearm. Like, I don't have to share with the other new guys in my platoon.
Exactly.
What is it? So I have night vision. Yeah. I have to share this night vision. No, I have night vision. Okay.
It's like, don't lose it.
I was a point man at 5, and I remember I had essentially a starlight scope from the movie Navy SEALs on my M4 on top of the NOM handling rail. I'm just
a carrying handle. Yeah. It's like. Yeah, NOM called. They want their weapon back.
But I thought it was awesome, and then I'm just like, oh, these are way better. And I was just pumped I could keep them.
Wow.
And then, yeah, man, I got to go upstairs, and it was like, holy shit, this is everything that I could have ever thought it would be.
Yeah.
What was it like pre-9/11 there? Because you had a few years to get your feet underneath you.
For sure. I mean, it was like I said before, it was everything I thought it'd be. We were doing rut trips up in Indiana and just hitting it hard. I was they found out I was already a skydiver, so they're like, hey, Steve, you're going to the tandem course, you're getting your AFF rating, so I went down that road, and and it was everything was awesome. And then of course 9/11 hit, and
where were you on 9/11?
I was on the climbing wall in the back of the compound with
by the gym
with Tommy V.
Yeah.
And him and I were back there, and we just were wrapping it up, and we were coiling up our ropes. And I remember somebody from Air Ops walked out, and they're like, "Hey, man, dude, did you just hear like a plane just hit one of the twin towers?" And we're like, "What? Wow!" So, we hightailed it up to the team room, and just as we were walking into the team room, the second plane hit. And at that moment, I remember thinking, like, this is it, game on. Like we're gonna go, get to do what we do. And and literally, like, I can remember just over a week after 9/11, we were we were already in the planning phase, and we were already processing targets, and and of course a month later we were on the Kitty Hawk.
The shitty kitty.
Yeah.
Did you like the water? The taste of the water on that bad boy?
Beautiful. It was my first time on an aircraft carrier. I was like, wow, it was so funny. I mean, I don't know if I should even talk about this, but it has to be told because it's such a funny story. So we get on the Kitty Hawk, we're like, we're super pumped, like we're going to war, like this is it. I mean, literally we were there. It was us and I believe a squadron. Mm-hmm. And, they literally emptied the entire flight deck, and it was all of our Connex boxes, and it was like, we had the full TF there, the whole full package. And we go into this briefing room, and I believe it was, I don't know who it was, like maybe the CMC of the boat or some legal guy, but he's like, hey, listen, we have a prostitution ring going on right now. So please leave the women alone on the boat. And I was like, what? Where the fuck am I right now? Like, what do you mean there's a prostitution? Am I not? Aren't we in the Navy right now? But it was like kind of this. I mean, it was just so bizarre to me. And I'm like, I thought we were actually coming over here to go to war, and you're talking about prostitution rings on your
aircraft carrier?
Aircraft carrier right now? It's crazy.
I rode the Kitty Hawk from Guam to Australia, and we obviously had no job or responsibility that entire time. And I saw some of the craziest shit I've ever seen in my time in the military.
Yeah.
I've been on in 17 years in the Navy. I think I was on a boat for maybe somewhere between 14 to 21 days, most of it on the Kitty Hawk. And I remember I was up overlooking the flight deck. I think it was at nighttime, and I'm just working this elliptical like a summer job. Just hush, 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 hush. Just skiing to fucking nowhere. And
Sugar glider.
And I watch a guy just walk out, and he's just like looking around, walks over to the wall, grabs a fire extinguisher off the wall, and runs and just jumps off the boat.
You're kidding me.
Swear to God.
Jumps off.
Just jumps off, and we're like just across the equator. Like he's not swimming anywhere. So, you know, they like the helicopters. He was trying to kill himself. He grabbed a buoyant fire extinguisher. And I'm just sitting there just
like later,
what in the fuck is going on? Yeah, it would work out until I was tired. And
so, of course, you finished your workout. You didn't.
No, I didn't break stride.
Yeah.
Actually, it might have bumped up my pace a little bit. I got fired up.
Oh, man. It's definitely a different. Wow. It's literally, I think they describe it as a city on the water.
Yeah, I think there's 5,000 people on that. I mean, they have everything there. They have, you know, mechanic shops. They have a postal office. They have grocery stores, barber. It doesn't surprise me that they
hospital.
have a prostitution ring. I mean,
Why not throw in?
It would appear that they have everything else on that boat. I mean, I don't know. How was that first deployment? Did you guys get to do anything?
Yeah, we did quite a few things actually. We spent almost a month on the Kitty Hawk.
Where were you guys? Just
we ended up actually off the Kitty Hawk. Our first mission was we rescued Karzai.
Yeah,
out of Kandahar.
Where were you guys floating?
Off the coast of Pakistan.
Okay, just chilling.
Yep,
just a mobile staging base, basically.
It's just cutting squares.
Yeah, if you will.
Haven't heard that in a while.
Good term. I don't know if I've ever heard that, but I know what it means.
Cutting squares for all you naval.
See, we have a deep naval background and understanding.
It's cutting squares.
Yeah.
Yeah. So rescued Karzai, and then immediately afterwards, they kicked us off, and we went into Oman, and then after that, we.
Why did they kick you off?
I think we're just basically waiting for
prostitution ring.
Guys are getting tied up in that. It's getting ugly, but no, they wanted to get us in, and we went into Oman there and started operating. Basically, did got some AMSITs.
Yep.
Out of Afghanistan.
American citizens for those listening.
Yep. Did the jump into the dry lake bed there with your boy Nui.
Didn't somebody powder their kneecaps?
Yeah.
Is that Lily?
Nope.
He's been hurt in many different ways.
No. He was never injured jumping.
I was there the night he decided to slide off the Little Bird into the ocean.
Yeah, during the underways.
I was in the boat, and they're like, we got a deck load of dude on here. And I'm like, oh, hey, what's up, Lily?
Oh, my gosh. I love that guy. I never forget. He walked back into the team room that night. And, he took a... For those of you listening,
let's describe. We have to describe the evolution first for it to make sense.
So first of all, we've got a ship that's moving at about 10 to 15 knots across the water in the ocean. We've got a Little Bird, a small helicopter, with a few guys fast roping off the helicopter onto the bridge wing, which is roughly between, I would say, 50 to 70 feet off the water.
Yeah.
Off the bridge.
Mind you, not all the people on the Little Bird are on the same side as the rope. Right. So you have to
crawl through.
And this is it's basically a flying Volkswagen.
Mm-hmm. So this is happening, and what happens is there's one rope that's hanging.
Usually left side, right, or right side,
depending on what side of the ship you're on. Yeah. So helicopters maintaining station. Mark is he's starting to crawl through. He starts to go down the rope, and the helicopter loses station. So what happens is sometimes they can no longer hover or hold their position, so they have to break off. Well, as Mark is going down the rope, this happens, and he's hanging on a 20-foot fast rope, which is not very long.
No.
and he gets about halfway down it, and they lose station and start. And this is at night. He's got nods on.
In the winter, and I'm in the boat force. So our squadron, so there's half BAF, helicopter assault force, boats assault force. Steve's guys were in the helicopters. We were in the boats. We got the shitty end of the stick, which means we had to ride the boats through the waves out there. So we assault from the bottom, they assault from the top. We each have our own objectives, and we're back to Lily on the rope.
Boom. So this thing peels off, and of course, you know, when a helicopter loses control, the first thing they want to do is build speed to fly the helicopter. So they peel off and start to build up speed, and Mark eventually ends up popping off the rope at about, so we're guessing, 60 feet and about maybe 80 knots over the water.
I heard tales of people under their nods seeing a dude holding on to the bottom of the rope with his feet like flying behind him like the last ditch effort.
I mean, I'm sure. Mark's a machine.
Mind you, this isn't the first time that he's been hurt. He got fucked up in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Then, which was pre this.
Yeah. So
water evolution.
He pops off the rope and hits the water, and he's fine. He's got a couple black eyes and
busted blood vessels in his face.
Yeah, a rib or two. But I remember walking back into the team room and just shaking his head. He's like, "Fuck, man, underways," and he's just like, "Wow, yep."
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. I'll tell you, it's worth mentioning. Mark, who has been such a long time friend of mine, and the guy, his nickname, one of his nicknames was Barnes.
I did not know that. From
Platoon, as the phrase, like, the only guy who can kill Bonds is Bonds. Right? He was that guy. I mean, I'll never forget it. We were, wrecking a target in Afghanistan and up on comms and watching his patrol come back into Gardez when they got ambushed, and he got shot.
Through the trap, through the tricep.
Yeah, he got shot. Yeah, and I believe that 7.62 round is still in his back.
Yeah.
And
you guys were looking for Ghoul Rockman, right?
Yeah, Ghoul.
I don't really know that because we closed the circle on that for you guys.
I know you did. I heard the jack-o'-lantern story.
Which we'll save that for a different time.
You guys closed the loop on that, which was cool. This is cool. I remember, dude, we were in I remember me and Sherm in a low-vis vehicle with Pete, and we're like in man jammies, like laid up in some abandoned compound up on comms, and like, he's moving towards your position, and literally we're like, dude, we're supposed to fly home in like 2 days. Like, can we just turn this over to the other guys and just like let them do their thing? And of course, you ended up doing it, but just so funny, man. Good times.
Lily Jack, he is indestructible, actually.
For sure.
Okay, so you guys were in Oman. That was your first pump. You came back, and then I'm assuming you just kind of did rotations to probably OEF until probably 05, 06? Yeah. Well, you had the Air Ops tour in between there too, right?
Yeah, so we, we were doing the kind of rotation there with Green on and off, and I got put in a recce.
Mm.
So I was in the recce cell afterwards, and then did the recce thing for almost 2 years, at least 2 deployments, and then that's when I went down to air right after that. So I think it was like 04, 05.
Yep.
Somewhere in there.
Because I left mid to late 06, and then you left air and went back and just, what rank were you in those first 9/11 deployments? E6?
E5.
Really?
Yeah.
There's no better job.
I was in E5 for a long time. Dude, when I took Air Ops, when I took the tandem course, I was in E6. I just made E6. Yeah. And which, nowadays.
I think I was in E6.
Which nowadays is like, guys are actually getting to the command, and they're like 7s.
I think I was in E5 or an E6.
Yeah. Glory days, man.
Obviously I was the boss of you regardless of the rank, but know, it's funny. You were talking about your pipeline once they found out that you like jumping. HB did the same thing for me. I went in one pro dev cycle, 0 air qualifications, static line jump master, straight to a Bragg Black freefall jump master, straight to tandem, straight to AFFI.
Yeah.
I literally finished one course and walked over and did the AFFI. So I went to 0 qualifications to one of the more qualified guys at the squadron at that point.
I did too. I mean, it's funny, our career paths in the air side, at least, was almost identical because I got ID'd by Jonesy in the squadron.
He did the same thing for you.
Which is ironic because our team chief, who will not be named, but he didn't like me. So he's like, yeah, he can wait. He can wait. And when I got to the squadron, I had close to like almost 500 jumps at the time. And Jonesy's like, dude, you have to get this guy qualled up. I mean, this is your future air guy here, you know? And same thing. Like, I went literally from static line JM to freefall JM right to the tandem course. I mean, literally, just like you.
I remember I graduated static line JM on a Friday and drove to Bragg on a Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually ended up going to the black course in Yuma with our boy.
Oh, our boy.
Yeah.
Bundle boy?
No. No. Why his name escapes me.
Probably best that we don't use it.
Yeah. Again, let's not name drop it.
Yeah.
Good dude.
You know what's funny to me is the misconception. You run into people, they find out you're a SEAL. I've been asked more about SEALs skydiving proficiency than almost anything else.
Really?
It comes up a lot. Also probably because I jump a lot too. So they like, oh man, you learned how to do all this stuff when you were a team guy? It's like, no. Nope. Not at all. Nope. I learned how to do really dumb things like intentional tree landings with bundles and how to give myself concussions with, prototype tandem parachutes with bad trim sets.
Yeah, exactly.
And how to like repack a TP 400 with a profuse nosebleed because I'm concussed from the last jump that I did. Yeah, I learned how to do all that, but it was all afterwards. Mm-hmm. I loved the jumping that I did. I think the tandem course for me, I think that was the tipping point where I started feeling very comfortable in my skills because if you can jump another human being, and my partner in the tandem course was not really compliant. He was a step above that interpreter that I jumped. And if you can just like jump somebody who's out there just going nuts, it's like, oh, did you want me to jump a rucksack?
Going full retard.
Oh, you want me to jump a rucksack? It's going to be just fine.
I think the majority of the guys that leave the tandem course, they're like, I would much rather jump a 400-pound, 30-inch by 5-foot barrel than a human being on the front of me.
For sure.
100%. 100%. Just like, I mean, not to recap, but, like the stunt we did for Killcliff, right? I mean, dude, to date, that's the biggest barrel I've ever jumped. It was a 6-foot, 6 by 36.
I don't remember.
Is that what it was?
I don't know.
I think it was I remember standing behind that barrel, and it's on the rollers. I'm not a super tall guy.
You're definitely You're 5'4".
Stop. Come on. Come on, man. Give me another 5 inches. No, but
you're not 5'9".
Dude, I am.
There's in fucking stiletto
5'9".
heels. You're in stiletto heels. You're 5'9".
Fuck you. I remember standing behind that barrel like, holy shit, this thing is fucking huge.
So almost nobody probably knows about that. We should describe what you're talking about because I couldn't see you because I was in the barrel.
Right. Okay.
Which is a controversial approach to that type of jump in the first place.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely frowned upon by the military, so I'll let you describe it.
It was, so the military tandem course, MTTB, military tandem tethered bundle, which is funny, they don't actually mention passenger in the name of that. Mm. But you start
because it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. You start off.
It's just a stepping stone.
Yeah. Well, and actually, how does the military teach people to jump out attached to another person? You attach yourself to another person with equally forged credentials, and you jump out of the back of an airplane.
Oh my God. Dude, sidebar real quick. The prerequisite to get into the tandem course is 200 jumps. 200 military jumps, by the way. The civilian prereq is 500. Yeah. And the majority of the guys that come into the course, I'm sorry for all of those out there that, you know who I'm talking about. Like you logged like 50 of those jumps in the team room.
in one day with the same pen, with the same handwriting.
Over like a 6-pack or whatever your pleasure is. But yeah.
Yeah, I would go back. So
like sporty.
Well, I would go back and augment every course I could with you, and I would look through their logbooks, and you would see. You can tell on a logbook because there's gaps, and there's different fucking pen colors and different people to be signing it, and then all of a sudden you like flip the page, and you're like, huh. Every one of these entries is identical. Flip the page, identical. And you're like, oh, mother of God. And then the last 75 jumps you can tell were completed in a 1-hour time period in a team room, and they have people signing it, and you're like, oh my, okay, go strap yourself to another human being. Let's see how this works out.
Exactly.
Yes. So the second part of that is the MTTB, the Military Tandem Tether Bundle. I can only describe it as standing behind a refrigerator attached with a Kevlar tether, and you push the refrigerator out of the aircraft. The men hold on to it until it reaches the vertical configuration. The women let go of it as it's still on the ramp and get ejected out. Also known as a shopping cart, which people deny until you slow-mo frame by frame the video. And they're 5 feet from the end of the ramp, arms at full extension, and hands are open, and they're like, that's not me. I remember actually my first bundle jump. I was the first person to go out of the plane. It was out of a Skyvan, and I was like, Jim Woods was backing me up, and you hang the portion of the bundle off of the back of the aircraft, and I was like working on my, like a rodeo rider, like working on my grip, and in my head, the only thing I could think of in my head was, this is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Yeah.
And I just was like, just hold on to this thing till you get out of the airplane.
I think everybody thinks that, man. Like,
it's a fridge. You're pushing a refrigerator, and the reason that you would do this is you can load that fridge type object with rucksacks or mortars or rockets or whatever, and it takes the burden off of the other people jumping.
Yeah. I remember, dude, I had 1,000 jumps when I went through that course, and I thought the same thing. I was on the ramp, sitting back there on the rollers, like getting ready, 30 seconds, here we go, and I'm just like, what are you doing right now? Like, this is retarded.
It seemed like a good idea until the 2-minute call.
Exactly.
The door came open. I was like, fuck.
Yeah, when the ramp comes down and they're, your video guy's like, all right, keep pushing, keep coming, or hanging over the edge, I had Freddie, I had fabulous Freddie. Like
I switched between him and Jim on all my jumps in that course.
Yeah, I had Freddie back there. He's like, give me a thumbs up. He's like, yeah, give me the, like, yeah, bro, you got it. Like, fuck you, dude.
Like, no, Freddie, I don't have this. You need to get the fuck out of the way. These things weigh 300 to 400 pounds. They're so, you let go of this thing, and you have a drogue parachute behind you on everything except for the self set, which is another rodeo evolution.
Wow, I know.
But so the drogue sets and it slows you to the regular free fall rate, but you let go of this bundle and you feel this thing just tug you, and you're attached to it, and then you open it. And I don't even really know how to describe the opening shock. I
always described it as a car accident.
But you can feel it build.
It's like being in a car accident. So as soon as you release the drogue, to open the parachute, it almost feels like it's uncontrollable chaos.
I could always feel it, though, because you have a little bit of that trap door.
You get a little trap door.
And it felt like the gears were tightening, and then they explode.
And it's just a radical thrashing of...
People have separated their ACL, MCL.
Again, dude, it's like it's like a slow-mo car accident. Seriously, right? I mean, like, dude, I jumped the 421s. I don't know if you jumped the 421s when you went through the course, but we jumped the 421s.
Is that the one where you could have out-of-sequence deployment?
Yes.
We did one appreciation jump of that.
Yeah.
I was a Sigma class.
Yeah. And they started calling it the death rig, remember?
Yeah.
But we had actually had the 421s, which is 100% 9-cell F-111 parachute, like tandem parachute. And that thing would open like it would wreck you.
A literal bag of dicks.
Wreck you. Oh, my gosh.
All raining down on you.
Yeah, raining down. And then you would have to land it. And that was like, hey, like base jumping, jump's optional, landing's not, right?
That's what we jumped in our course. They were just in the signal rigs. We had no 0P on ours.
Oh, you didn't have the 400 TP400s?
No, I took the first proto TP400 overseas and jumped it with that fucking interpreter.
Well, it was already, but we had already tested all the.
You guys were out there
TP400s,
testing.
yeah.
We were all out there testing it, but it hadn't been put in service. So in our Sigmas, we had those
That's
9
right.
cells.
That's right. Yeah.
Jonesy handed me a pear bag, and he was just like, "Put this in your." Come to find out, that sucker wasn't trimmed very well.
No. No. I remember guys walking off the drop zone like with, chipped teeth and like, that thing doesn't open too good.
I remember they put the G-force measurers on Jonesy.
On the risers.
On the risers. And he broke it twice in a row, and they just said, instead of actually studying this data, just give those back. We don't want to know.
And by the way, they break at 10 Gs.
Yeah, which is, I think, more than an ejection seat ride.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But Jonesy, because I remember seeing him at the bar, his entire side of his face looked like a cantaloupe because he had smacked his face into the risers. It's hard to describe. I would literally just ball up and try to hold my head so it wouldn't bounce against the metal 3 rings. It was the most horrendous experience ever.
Yeah. Again, car accident.
Yeah.
It's good.
That's fine. TBI doesn't have any effect later on in life.
Somewhere in the medical record.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
So how was it like when you went back after? So did you pick up 7 as air ops guy? Or back in the squadron?
No, I picked up, I left air ops and picked up 7 in the squadron.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you went back to blue.
Yep. And then shortly after, picked up a team. Matter of fact, I picked a team up as I went back into the squadron.
So you went back up, was it 06 you said?
Yeah.
And when did you leave?
I left in 10.
Were you just banging that whole time between?
Yep.
How was that?
I mean, amazing. My first deployment, I picked up a team straight to Iraq, went over to do the turnover with the other squadron, and it was just...
was that your first time in Iraq?
Yeah.
What do you think about the differences?
Very different.
I had the benefit of, actually, I bounced back and forth quite a bit because I augmented A for that one when I got blasted.
That's right, yeah.
So I had a good amount of... I was there for OIF 1, the OON. It's not a big deal.
Yep.
Let me tell you how smooth we were. Smooth as a cheese grater on your balls. That's what that felt like. That's how smooth we were. It's amazing how much. I look back, like, we are so lucky that the people that we were up against also didn't know shit or were at a technical or tactical disadvantage. Because there were some lessons learned.
100%. I mean, the entire time from the time we stepped foot in, name the country until, there's constantly lessons learned. But yeah, my first pump as a team leader in Iraq, I mean, I had Lou rolled in.
Yep.
And
reservist Lou.
Yep. After being, out of the game for a long time, and I'll never forget we were standing on the helo on the ramp there waiting to load up the 47s, and I remember Lou looking at me, he's like, "This is fucking awesome." And I'm like, "It's not awesome yet, dude. Stand by." But the biggest difference I noticed from Iraq to Afghanistan was just our op tempo was a lot higher, but just not nearly as intense. I think the guys, enemy in Iraq, they were just a lot smarter. They cached their shit and went to bed at night with their family and stuff. So
they weren't isolated by the terrain as much either.
Totally,
the freedom of movement is. They could get on freeways.
Yep.
Or in towns or in cities. I mean, how do you describe Konar?
No.
Konar
would be...
other than saying it's fucking 80 degrees at some point and they find a way to terrace themselves into that.
Here's how I would describe Konar, because Konar was actually beautiful countryside. I would describe Konar as trying to hit a target on some ridge line in Tahoe. Yeah. That's Konar. And trying to pinpoint a target, get to it, navigating in the terrain and just getting to the target. That's Konar. Iraq obviously was different. It was like, hitting, I don't know, some rural village but some city, like, for example, like
Kalispell's not a bad example. I mean, it's 20,000 people.
Totally. Kalispell, or even El Cajon, right? I mean, there's places like this. There's a lot of buildings and a lot of lights and roads and structures and stuff. Like, I mean, any town USA, drop in and off you go. You're walking down the street and there's street lights and the power's on and you're knocking on somebody's door, so to speak.
Metaphorically. Yeah. I mean, I guess technically, depending on what you classify as a knock.
Yeah. Could be in the form of a breaching charge or, But
so how many deployments did you end up doing?
I ended up doing 10 deployments.
Post 9/11, right?
Yeah.
Are there any that stand out of those 10?
Yeah. A couple of the 07, 08 were
I think that seems like that
pretty intense.
That time period was the peak of, especially in Iraq at least, the kinetic nature.
Yeah, it was. We were doing a lot of, we were hitting a lot of targets and going after a lot of cells and Helmand Province and so on. But it was very productive, and we were very effective, and we would get rid of cells out of an entire region, and they would kind of just pick up and move to another one. But we did that over and over, and our deployments were, we would come back typically after 3-4 months over there, and we'd have well over 300 on the books.
Yeah.
So, but it was a lot of fun. I loved it.
I feel the same. You have obviously exponentially more experience than I do in that world, but I feel the same way about the vast majority of my experience. And I don't know how to describe to people, how could you enjoy that?
I don't know.
Because there's aspects of it, right? Like, one, you're testing yourself. Like, I'm a competitive person.
Right.
And I like to win. And I can't think of a more competitive environment than, and this is something I try to explain to people, and I don't know if it would ever sink in for them until they lock eyes with somebody who has the complete and utter opposite opinions or an ideology that is completely opposed to ours, and you can feel it in your fucking bones that that person would end you in everything that you believe in. And to compete with that person on a level that has the highest of stakes and win.
Right.
I don't know how to describe that. Because there is an element, I did enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
Not all of it.
I enjoyed 98% of it, being overseas. And
You just didn't like the paperwork.
I just didn't like the paperwork, no. I definitely didn't like the paperwork. And I wasn't a good typer at the time. So, those reports really sucked. But
he.
But I kind of I'll describe it as, imagine guys, me personally, I got into the SEAL teams to do that job, and I spent a lot of time in the SEAL teams training to do the job. And so by the time I got to the command and the war kicked off and I was actually able to, do the job that I envisioned doing over so many years of training for, and it was to me, it was like, wow, I've arrived at my calling, in a sense.
Yeah.
Right. Because, you get into the regular teams and you're kind of like, okay, this is cool. We're training and I'm a new guy. And then you move on. And then, eventually, you get to the command and like, oh my gosh, like, you're going through screening and you're like, wow, these are the assets we have accessible to us. And then you get into the squadron and then you're like, oh my gosh, the training just continues to build and build. It's, I use the analogy. It's kind of like going from, I played football in high school for 2 years until I got mad.
You did?
I did.
What position did you play?
Tackle. And
coach's assistant.
Tackle.
And coach's assistant at best.
Tackle and defensive end, not a big deal. But I got kicked off the team because my grade sucked. But anyway, but I kind of use the analogy like it's like playing, college ball, right? You're college football, and then you get pulled into the NFL, and now you're in the big leagues, right? You've got all the assets, you got all the money, and you're getting all the good targets. And I literally thrived in that environment, and I can remember my son. We were actually in Iraq when Jay was my first wife was pregnant with Jay, and she's like, "Hey, I think I might have this baby early. I think you need to fly home." And I'm just all, well, I'm not really sure if I can make it back. And dude, I swear to you, I mean, I feel in. Jay, if you eventually listen to this, you know me, bro. But I can remember like really struggling with it. Like, you don't pull me out of here.
It's one of the things I struggle with the most. I didn't want to leave.
Don't pull me out. I don't want to leave. Like, I don't want to leave. It's not. You don't want to just leave the work, but it's also your guys, man. You have your guys there. You've got the team, the troop. You've got people there that are relying on you. You have a sense of purpose, the deepest sense of purpose that I've ever had. Yeah. And, you go out the door and you do your thing and you come back and, when the sun comes up and you're sitting in your team space and you're just like, whew, man, what kind of drug was that? Because I'll tell you what, there's not a drug that can match that level of high. After coming off a target and doing your job and being successful and bringing everybody back alive, and there literally is no drug that can match that level. I mean, you're just like, okay, when are we going out again? But yeah. So that's why I enjoyed it.
What was the highest point of your career? How many years did you do? It's like
20.
42, right?
That would make me about 85. No, I did 24.
All right.
Yep, 24 years. So,
what was the highest point?
Highest point.
I'd say operationally.
Operationally, my highest point was probably from 06 to 09.
As a team leader?
As a team leader, and I was lucky enough to I did three pumps overseas as a team leader, and I would have done 8 more. I would have been a team leader until they said you're not fired, but you can't work here anymore.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it was just in my opinion, at the command, it is the job to have at that command. And, I got offered they're like, hey, stay, you can, maybe get a troop later on. And I just really wasn't interested. And
still, it's a shade detached. Everything.
You're in a leadership position, and you're up there with your team, and you're not going through the door. But,
what was the lowest point?
Probably when I got accused of, got accused of murder. And we were in Kandahar in 07. Yeah.
I don't know if I know this story.
Yeah.
Do tell.
So I'll tell the Reader's Digest version of it. Basically got accused of murder, basically. NCIS was involved. I'm not going to name names and stuff, but ended up nothing came about.
Mm-hmm.
They, NCIS did their due diligence and interviewed all the guys on my team, and but I think it was just a matter of somebody saw something that they mistaken, they didn't really see, and But it was definitely a highlight for me, because here's why. At that point in the war, it started getting very political. And, the microscope is starting to come down, and they're like, hey, what are you guys doing in the field? We want to embed,
partner force.
Yep, partner force, foreign nationals.
What was your guys' ratio towards the end?
Our squadron only did a few the ratios. I mean, we went out. It was like kind of a 1-to-1. We just went out and they would kind of push them over to like another compound, right?
That's what we had too, was a 1-to-1.
So we'd push them over. What were they called? Mohawks? Can't remember.
Your guys were called Mohawks.
The guys we worked with, yeah.
Correct. Ours did not have a name.
Yeah.
They were called ANA. Afghan National Army.
Yep. So our guys, the Mohawks, were
yours had at least additional level of
exact.
From the outside, they were supposed to have additional level of
training,
selection, refinement, and training.
Yeah. So we would, for example, push them over to like an adjacent compound,
like 7 or 8 kilometers away.
Like far enough away where there was no danger of any of us getting shot by them, right? So, but we'd push them over there and we would usually have, an OGA guy embedded with them who was on comms and who would relay like, yeah, everything's going good over here. It's looking good. Nobody's shooting each other. And yeah.
How's it looking for you guys?
Yeah, looking great. Yeah. So,
well, it's I got to Afghanistan, my last deployment in 2010, and the first piece of paper that was slid across the table to me was no night raids. And that was a tough cookie to sell to the boys.
Yeah.
And a 1-to-1 partner force. They're talking about the politicalization, or I guess it depends on how you look at it. They were the long-term counterinsurgency strategy was to hand it over to the local nationals, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But it certainly changed. I had never seen a partner force. When I left the command, there was 0 partner force.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started hearing it creep to the conventional, and then it became 1-to-1, like a legit 1-to-1.
Mm-hmm.
Like one local national will get on the helicopter, one U.S. will get on the helicopter, like to that level.
Wow.
And then when I heard it made its way to the command, it's like, okay, it's getting real. If it made it that far up the Christmas tree.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of saw the writing on the wall as well. When we were over there, and it started getting to that because, the night raids were starting to, the accusations and stuff were starting to gain momentum, and a lot of the, the political part of it was like, hey, listen, these guys are scaring a lot of people. They're coming in houses at night, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and raiding, and
which, by the way, is the optimal time to do that.
Yeah. I mean, we were very successul at it.
Well, you're leveraging everything you have at your advantage to the disadvantage of the person you're going after.
Yeah.
From a tactician perspective, that's 100% the way that you should be operating.
It's a tactical advantage that we had that nobody else had. So,
how'd you deal with losing your friends?
At first, honestly, it wasn't. I mean, it was tough. We loaded guys up in the C-17 and in the caskets and sent them on their way. But I think later on in life, it's a little heavier.
Yeah,
it is. It's again, at the time, I can remember not really. I don't want to say not really feeling anything, because I did, but it was more anger. And it was like, all right, cool. Like, all right.
Yeah.
So it's, here we go. Game on. And, I think it was only till later, after kind of, the dust settles and you're like, holy shit, it's like, it's, you reflect and think about
you get older and your life experiences changes.
100%. Yeah.
Your kids get older.
Yeah.
You see, for myself, I see in my kids a lot of things that I saw the kids over there doing, and that's something I trip about almost every single day. Not in a negative perspective, but it's just something. My mind will drift back there, and it's like, fuck. It's I describe it as being binary. You weren't in a place where you could find this space in between to deal with it. You were either on or you were off.
Yeah, for sure. And when you're in country, I mean, I it's funny because I see pictures. We rarely take pictures overseas, but I take pictures, and I remember one in particular. We went and hostage rescue, AMSIT dude. His name is Al. We rescued him out of just outside of Kabul, up in the mountains. And afterwards, we took a team picture. And later on, I remember looking at the picture and I'm like, man, that doesn't really even look like me. I just didn't have, I mean, seriously, I had this like really, you know, I don't even know. It's just like, wow, that's me. Like, I know that's me. Obviously, I'm standing next to all my team members there, but it was almost like I didn't recognize myself. It was really bizarre for me to look at that. And but yeah, you're in a certain space over there where, you know, your head, you're just in a different, you're in a different space. So,
how do you think it impacts the rest of your life? I mean, you did 10 combat deployments post 9/11. How do you think that changed you?
You know, clearly it changed me. I don't know if it was for the better or worse. I'm still, jury's still out on that, but that's my wife.
I don't think anybody knows. I mean, the U.S. has never been at war for this long.
Yeah.
We're in such uncharted territory. Nobody knows the answers, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
or at least I've never heard an answer that resonates with me. Like, you know what? That makes a ton of sense.
You know, I choose to look at it more, you know, take the kind of the positive out of it, because I think the lessons learned I took from, you know, going to war for that long and 10 deployments and hundreds of targets and, you know, this and all the stuff that, you know, myself and my teammates experienced. I mean, me personally, you know, I bring that stuff back, and, you know, nothing right now really gets me super excited. And let me explain a little bit deeper. For example, you know, somebody may think that they're like in this emergency situation, or this is a very, you know, this demands my attention.
It is, dude.
This is so serious right now.
Steve, it's an Instagram post.
And exactly. And, you know, and I've used this analogy in the past. It's like, well, okay, all right. And this is the way I look at it, you know, Steve. I'm like, okay, well, you know, we're not getting shot at, right? We're not in we don't have people around us that want to kill us. So let's just go ahead and take a little bit of a wrap off, all right? Because it's not a life-threatening situation. Now, if it is a life-threatening situation, that's a completely different story, you know.
But still, it might help to take a wrap off.
Absolutely, which, you know, we were in the business of doing almost on a daily basis. You know, you go into a target and, you know, you get on the helicopter and you get off the helicopter and you're walking into the target, and you're walking into a situation where you're like, well, I don't know how this is going to go. This is either going to go two ways. I'm either going to live or I'm going to die. Those are the two basic options of this situation.
Or be super fucked up.
Exactly. Even worse, paralyzed.
Which right? I actually think would be worse.
100%.
Yeah, that's the worst case scenario.
I completely agree. But, you know, so looking back on it and putting, you know, thinking about those situations that I was in, you know, years ago, and relating them to my life now, you know, nothing's really that serious. There's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing I can't handle. There's not a situation I can't deal with as long as somebody's not shooting a gun at me. I mean, it's pretty simple, you know, and, you know, people, I think my personal opinion, a lot of people maybe take themselves a little too seriously. It's like, man, just settle down. This isn't that big of a deal. You know, you'll get through it. Yeah. You know, like whatever life situation you're going through, whether it's, you know, family or divorce or, you know, addiction or whatever it is, you know, just you'll get through it. And quite honestly, there's probably people around you that'll get you through it, that'll help you get through it. You know what I mean? So, especially if you're, you know, especially if you're a good person. I mean, you surround yourself with good people, and, you know, you'll get through it. So, but that's the one thing I look back on and I'm like, yeah, I can take all that. Not necessarily that I don't call it bad shit, because in my opinion it wasn't bad. It was like a lot of fun.
There was essences or portions that were bad for sure, but there's a lot to be taken away from it.
Sure. And there was a lot of bad stuff, but at the same time, like, there was a lot of stuff I really enjoyed and I learned from. So
I learned a lot about myself in those environments.
100%. Yeah.
And human nature.
Yep.
And, people talk about discipline or willpower. Like, you want to find an environment to determine whether or not you got the discipline to do what you need to do. Fuck me.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Go. Yeah. Move. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to do this,
Yep.
but I need to do this.
Yep.
What
Little term we called move to set. Hey, you ready to move to set? You good? You ready to move up? All right, here we go. Yep.
What impact do you think it had on your kids? Because this is one I'm still trying to answer for myself. Because I remember when your daughter and my son were bouncing in that rubber jump house to the point where, like, you came to pick him up and Riley's head is like bobbling.
Yeah.
I mean, they were micro monkeys. They were 30 pounds.
I know. I look back on that, and honestly, I don't know what my kids even remember.
Do they ever ask you about your military experiences?
My son does a little bit.
None of my kids do.
No,
And I'm
yeah.
actually, I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, and I don't either. And I 100% agree. Like, my son occasionally will ask a very broad question.
Yep. I get that's what I'll get maybe sometimes from Tyler, my middle,
Yeah.
like a very broad, not specific.
Exactly. And and I'll answer it, answer broad questions all day, but I just think my kids specifically, they don't really remember much of it. So they were pretty young. I remember my daughter being, I remember actually getting the letter, funny story, on the Kitty Hawk. I get a letter from my first wife, and she sends me this letter, and she's like, hey, by the way, pregnant. And I was like, wow.
I got
And that was Sophia.
package. The only package I got in OIF-1 was a box with an ultrasound in it
Oh, really?
with a circle around Riley's dick.
No way. Oh, my God.
And the handwritten note, it's a boy.
Wow.
That was the only package I got.
Wow.
What? You have to piss?
Yeah, I got to piss, dude.
Go piss.
Okay. Can I break
You're good.
off?
Take it off. Yeah. What the hell were we talking about? Circles around dicks. It's one of my favorite.
Yeah, your care package. That's
one of my favorite things to draw.
That's actually really cool.
It was.
And that was Riley, right?
It was Riley.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did it change your perspective post having kids? Did it change the way that you thought? Did it change the way that you operated?
No, it didn't.
I can't say it changed mine either. I think it would be dangerous if it did.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you...
And I don't think there's anything... don't get me wrong. I know you and I care about our kids more than anything in the world.
Mm.
What I'm saying is if you allow something to interrupt your thought process in a time where you have to take action, it's very dangerous.
It is. It's very dangerous. I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's what we've been trained to do our entire career. It's that compartmentalization. If you're not able to compartmentalize shit, like shut off, like literally when you are walking up to that door, placing the breech, if you can't, you have to be able to delete, literally, and I mean this in the most
I know what you're
respectful
about to say.
way. If you're not able to delete your entire family, your kids, your wife, your mom, your dad,
I'd say it goes beyond that. I would say anything other than the action at hand.
Exactly. If you are not able to completely check out of that arena, like that mindset, and move into your actual job, then you shouldn't be there. And I can remember, and I can, before I started base jumping, right?
Which I have some amazing videos of you on the rail at Twin, shaking like a dog shit in a basket of razor blades.
But you know how it is, like,
Which maybe I'll attach to this.
Just like base jumping, for those of you listening that do base jump, the level of focus that you have when you're standing on, name the ledge of a building, of a bridge, of an antenna, whatever it is, before you're ready to step off, you have the clarity in your head and the focus. you have, it just doesn't get any clearer than that. And that's what I use as an analogy for when, you're moving from set point and you're walking up to the target and you're moving up to that door.
You might as well describe what you're saying, move to set. Might as well break that down for what is that.
So move to set is basically...
There's phases of a military operation. I'll start there and then I'll let you take it.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much in the weeds and, give up
no TTPs, but just
too much stuff. But basically, move to set is, you for example, you get off the helicopter, you hike, move X number of kilometers, anywhere between 5 and 10, towards the target. You get within visual distance of the target. It could be 100 yards, it could be 50, it could be 200, and then that's your set point. So at your set point, you basically prep. You pull your charges out. You
get the ladders ready, whatever you need.
Whatever, and then and then after that, it's comes over comms. All right, move to set, and you move as a team to your building, to your compound, to wherever you're going, and it's basically like it's game time.
It's like getting down at a 3-point stance playing football.
Yep.
You're getting ready to execute your plan. It's that point with which everything is set and you're basically waiting for the execute.
And you move up to set, and it goes from there. And that is literally the most. And again, I use base jumping as a analogy for it, but your clarity, the focus. It's just so. It was my favorite part ever, was moving to that position. Obviously, all the stuff internal, and once you get in there and get going and stuff, and rounds start flying and stuff, is awesome too. But that moment is just it's hard to describe it, I guess.
Have you been able to find it outside of the military?
Not really, no. Well, no, I take that back.
I was gonna say base jumping.
Base jumping. I left the military and started working for myself, and that's when I really took up base jumping, and that was certainly a good thing I can go to get to that. To get to that space,
standing
to get to
on
that
the railing is a good set point.
Yeah, to get to that mental mindset of complete clarity. You're not thinking about anything else. You're not thinking about nothing other than stepping off the rail or the edge of the building or the antenna and doing it, and just hucking it and letting go of the pilot chute. I mean, that was probably a good release for me.
Yeah,
for sure.
Do you find it all doing the riding that you do?
Yeah, and then getting back on the dirt bike and getting back into racing and stuff. That was a really good, I use the term therapy.
Yeah,
this stuff is really good therapy for me. Like base jumping, skydiving, which I still do. Racing and riding my dirt bike, it's just really good therapy. And there's no amount of money I can give any person to sit down and just sit there and talk about whatever is on my mind. I mean, for me, I get on the edge of a bridge, or I'm in the door of an aircraft getting ready to jump out, or I'm on my dirt bike, at the start line of a race or whatever. I mean, that to me, that's therapy for me, because I can disappear. I mean, disappear is probably not the right word, but I can focus on my own thoughts, and it's therapeutic for sure.
It is, and I understand myself, I think, better than anybody ever would. So for me, the best therapies are times when I can let myself unwind. Mm-hmm. Outside of finding those headspaces or doing something that I find to be rewarding. It removes I don't know the best description for it, but an external pressure or constraint. And if I can give myself time alone with my brain to unwind, that I find to be more therapeutic than sitting down with somebody else who has a vastly greater amount of education and knowledge when it comes to therapy, but it's not what makes me tick. That's what I've found, at least.
Yeah. And and no fault on them. I mean, they're super, they're very intelligent, and that's their world, but I think the rub is, maybe not the rub, but they just, there's a such a disconnect between their world and our world. You know, a lot of people have a very hard time wrapping their head around, you know, man, what did you experience? Like, what did you go through?
Yeah.
What were you thinking about? What did you do? You know, and again, it's like, you don't know what you don't know. If you've never been there,
Yeah.
you've never experienced that, you don't know. You have no idea.
I also think they try to make it oftentimes more complex than it is. I found a lot of the stuff that happened overseas is super binary. If somebody is shooting at you, I'm going to shoot back. I encounter a threat, you do what you've been trained to do throughout a career. It's not like you're sitting there waxing your mustache, like trying to hatch.
I didn't have a mustache, but
I know, because you always go with like this Planet of the Apes beard. but you know what I mean? It's not, you don't have incredible amounts of time to calculate behavior. I mean, fuck, sometimes if you have a quarter of a second, you've got a time to take a breath and make a decision.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's very binary, 1-0. 1-0.
Yep.
It's not, the longest times that I ever had to think was actually on that last deployment in 2010 where I was on my long gun most of the time. But other than that, it's like,
oh
you
yeah,
know,
they're literally split second decisions.
and that's what I'm saying. There's not, it's not, I don't know if that's, I mean, maybe that's why it doesn't have the impact on some other than others. Because you look at the training we did, it was hyper realistic over a career. It was difficult. It was painful. It was all the things that you experience. So then when you get in that environment for real, it's not as complex, I think, as people want it to be. I mean, the reality is I could probably train a monkey to do what I did.
Here's the thing. I agree. It's not complex, but it takes a lot of mental strength to make those decisions that quickly, because there's a lot of people that are, you know, a hell of a lot smarter than we are, but, you know, it may take them a lot longer to make that decision. Or maybe they can't make that decision at all.
And what would actually really constrain them is that the vice of time, where they don't have the time to make the decision.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, I again, those outlets that we have.
Yeah. I mean, I pursue the same thing. I do this nowhere near I sold my motorcycles when we moved up here, but bow hunting is a lot of the same thing where like you have those moments where it's interesting. It's a lot of phases, much like a military operation. Mm-hmm. You're packing out and you're going in there and you're trying to call the animal in, and then you get into that execution phase. And a lot of it, that when I perform the best, I'm like, okay, shut the brain off and just operate. Mm-hmm. But it's cathartic for sure.
Yeah, I bet. I could imagine. It's just from watching a few of the videos. It's, you know, you have to immerse yourself in it.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know.
I wish that everybody in their life was either fortunate enough or forced to find that headspace so they could feel the impact that it has on clarity. Yeah. Because I think that's why I started base jumping too. It wasn't for I love jumping. Obviously, you know, I've been jumping together for almost 20 years. But same thing. Zipping up the wingsuit over in Switzerland on this unbelievable jump. And it's, as you're getting your gear on, it's the same thing. I went through a relatively systematic process in my mind for military operations where I would take a moment, like usually on the helicopter or the patrol in, and just kind of think about all the things that were either worrying me or that I cared about, whether it be wife, kids, and then I would just put them aside. I literally would force myself to like think about Riley as an example for like a minute on a helicopter and just how much I loved him or what I wanted his life to be if something were to happen to me. And then I was able to put it aside and I would not think about it again. And I systematically peeled that away. Yeah. And then got to that point where that clarity of focus, like I said, you start getting, you know, jocked up for a wingsuit base jump over in Switzerland. It's like, as I'm zipping up, like, everything's peeling away. I'm not really worried about my mortgage. And then you step to the edge, and the only thing you're wondering is how much, you know, how big is that P ring in my shorts right now?
I just got to really nail this exit.
Oh my God, don't go head low. All I need to do is not die right now. And that's why you wear dark pants, people. The moral of the story is if you're going to piss your pants, wear dark clothing.
Don't buy a white wingsuit.
Yeah. But I tell you what, a wingsuit trip for me, like a 2 or 3 week trip over to Switzerland, would clear my head for 6 months.
I bet, man. That's the one thing that I haven't done. That is certainly on my list of things to do before.
You have to hurry. You're so old.
I know, dude. I know.
You will die of old age probably in the next 2 weeks.
Never know. You never know. You never know.
No, the ridiculous amount of bullshit that you and I have survived in the 20 years that we've known each other, I think you're going to be all right.
I think so.
You and I should both have been dead many times.
Yes. Do we want to go down any of those roads?
Go for it.
Wow.
Well, I mean, what sticks out to you?
Well, I feel like I definitely want to talk about the Jasper wingsuit base trip we did.
The dumpster fire? The Jasper dumpster fire?
Jasper dumpster fire. I don't know.
Just the whole evolution.
I didn't know. Well, yeah, the whole thing, but
we explored new areas of the envelope that I don't think had been touched.
Yeah, for sure.
That's where the bundle jump went down, which we never described.
Yeah.
We talked about the
you
we never
go
described
into
it. Yeah.
Well,
So
finish that up.
to loop back to like an hour ago.
What time is it?
I don't know. The MTTB course, like we were describing, military tandem tether bundle. I had been out of the I got out of the military in 2013. You got out when?
Same. Yep.
Same. I loved jumping when I was in, but I just you can't pursue it to the level that you want to while you were in. Like you and I.
Yeah.
I think you were. Oh, I know for a fact because you had just the gayest chocolate chip helmet and a booty suit. The first time I ever met you, you were just in the tunnel, just booty suit, booty suit, booty suit.
That was banging turns, dude.
He was banging turns. He was flying
Belly
on
flyer.
his belly, which is, I mean, I don't know.
Kind of gay now.
I didn't know shit. I was not interested in that. I was doing free flying, which was more vertical axis type stuff, and I pulled Steve over to the dark side.
Right. Get back on track. Bundle.
Yeah, we're going to the bundle. We're going to the bundle. In the MTTB course, it's full of equipment, but after the military, you can do what you want. And so I didn't base jump while I was in the military. I never wore a wingsuit while I was in the military. I'm still searching to this day for a military application for a wingsuit so I could just contract wingsuit flying for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. It doesn't exist because where you can put your goddamn rucksack and weapon and radio.
Totally.
Yeah. Forward speed of about 2 kilometers an hour. So I dove into it, and it led me to sponsorship stuff, which I didn't know I was going to go that direction. I was working for CrossFit when I got out. I had a bad experience. Quit CrossFit. We went to Wyoming shortly thereafter, and it was actually basically on that Wyoming trip. On the way up there,
the first trip we did, I called you. We went to Utah. We did the Utah mountain jump course.
Did I drive up there in the black Silverado?
I don't remember, but
because you bought one right afterwards.
No, like right after you left CrossFit. I was like, dude, I need you for this jump course. It was a mountain jump course for the Air Force guys.
And I hadn't been jumping very much, and I was living near the drop zone, and I basically dove 2 feet back into the jumping world. Yep. We did that trip, and then we did that Wyoming course, which was amazing.
Awesome.
30 days.
Unbelievable.
And on the way up there, I learned how to base jump. So, of course, I was base jumping out of the helicopter. And then
like 500 feet back
layouts, doing gainers off of a Huey. So I'm sure it was
so sick, dude. That was cool. I think I saw that video on my phone.
I have it too, yeah. But it led to sponsorships, and I didn't know it was going to ever go that way. And the first sponsor that I actually ever had was Killcliff, which is obviously what we're drinking right now, mixed with our second sponsor that you and I have ever had, which is Tito's. But Killcliffs it's a can. It's a cylindrical tube. And guess what looks like a Killcliff can? A bundle. So we were out in Jasper, and we decided we were going to do a content project and pitch it to Killcliff. We wrapped a bundle in what looked like a can. And I don't know,
put yourself in it.
Decided that the good idea would be I would be inside of the bundle when Steve pushed it out.
So the first issue we had was typically the bundles we normally jump in the military are 5 foot by 30 inch, which 5 foot cylinder by 30 inches around might sound very big, but it's really not. So
I mean, you could be in there. You could stand
especially
up
if you're Andy and you're 6'1" or
you could stand up in that bundle though.
6. I can't. Okay. That's right. I'm 4'5".
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're like, well, we're gonna have to come up with a bigger barrel, which the next size up is a 36 by 6 foot, which will fit Andy's fat ass in it. So anyway, meanwhile, we're in the hangar, and Andy and I are literally have the bundle harness, which is this basic harness that goes around objects, and we're trying to like fit a door in there, and we're literally like just, we got a couple
Creating
cocktails and we got a bottle of Tito's and some Kill Cliff, and we're hanging out, and we're like just trying to figure this out. And fast forward, we build 2.
Yep.
We build a test one, which we put way too much weight in,
which pulled basically your 3-ring assembly almost apart.
So we put probably, what'd we figure, close to 600 pounds in that thing. And I remember leaving the plane with this thing, and we're in free for all. I'm in drug fall with this bundle, and I look over, and Andy is literally on his head
in shorts,
which in free flying, for those of you who don't know, when you're free flying, you're hauling ass, like probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 140 to 150 miles an hour,
if not faster.
And I look over, and Andy's actually videoing this tandem, this MTTB, this bundle, and I'm in free fall, and he's on his head, and I was like, wow, we're hauling ass. Of course, I already knew that because my body's vibrating like I'm re-entering the atmosphere. And so I released the drogue, and again, it's a total car accident. Anyway, long story short, we go back up, and we put just a couple hundred pounds of weight in that thing, and
a few sandbags on the bottom, and then I climbed in.
And then Andy climbed in, and I'll tell you, what's funny is I've actually showed this video to a few people in the literally like a month ago or less, and it literally, for a stunt like that that's never been done, it could not have gone better.
Oh, for sure.
There was not, the only thing,
the door flew off. That was about it.
The only thing, it happened exactly. The door flew off, and that was because he whom shall not be named, Blue, was so. We had a couple of guys working this project with us, and they were so peaked out that he probably couldn't even told you his name when we left the plane. But
surprisingly, you and I were doing okay.
Yeah. I mean, I was fine. I was like, this is just another day. I was pushing this bundle out, and
I figured I could get, if everything went to shit, I figured I could get that door open and get out.
Yeah, I seriously wasn't worried about it. I mean, especially after the first test one, I'm like, I'm gonna completely crush this exit. The only thing that can go wrong is I'll have a mal, and I'll have to get rid of the bundle, and Andy will figure it out. But I mean, everything was just perfect, and the funniest thing about the entire video, when I show people the video, is they're like, "Dude, I can't believe you caught that can of Kill Cliff when you hucked it up." I was like, "Really?" Like, oh,
that was the easy part.
Yeah, that was the easy part.
So he pushes the bundle out, the door ripped. I was holding on. I was basically inside of the bundle, trying to make my body push up against all of the walls of the cylinder. Holding onto the door, it ripped out of my hand. I still had the string in my hand, so I'm like, all right, line stretch. It was spinning. I'm like, I need to get out of this visual because it was just going in circles. And I just popped my head up, and I remember looking up at you, and you lose your shit. And I was like,
yeah, what's up?
And so I climbed to the top of the bundle, and we from like 12K down to
flew around for.
I think I hopped off that thing at like 1,500.
Well, I think lower than that, way lower. Because I remember flying over the top of the drop zone, and Andy, I remember he hucks it off, and he's on his back, just like, looking up at me. I'm just like, fucking pull, dude. Like, dude, we're like dirty low right now.
You can hear it in the video. You're like, pull.
I'm like, pull, fucker. Like, you're going to ruin the whole thing by going in. That was good times, man. Good times. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So what are you up to these days, man?
Just doing.
I mean, you did the Baja 1000 Ironman style.
No, I didn't Ironman it.
I thought you did.
No, I didn't Ironman it. I raced it a few times with the team, and I've been trying to do it the last couple of years. I can't put it together. I can't put a team together. But myself and one of my really good friends in Vegas, Scotty Moses, we've been racing last year we raced the Mint 400 for the first time that they've allowed bikes back in. So yeah, racing that again this year. Got the working on the next Call of Duty game. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm helping out my wife with her business and her endeavors with Practice Positivity and her grit program and all that. So
yeah,
putting all that stuff together, and yeah, man, just generate leads.
Trying to figure it out day by day.
Totally. I mean, that's the coolest thing about working for yourself is, you don't have to answer to anybody except for yourself,
I describe it as the freest prison you'll ever be in.
Exactly.
You're the warden, and if you don't like the view, you can move the window.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. You said
totally.
I find that for myself, I'll be like, oh, I can't do that. I'm like, why am I telling myself that? I might as well try.
Totally.
The boundaries that constrain me the most, I find, are the ones that I set for myself, and they're stupid.
Yeah.
So, where can people find you and support what you got going on?
So my two businesses, Tier 1 Global Consulting, that company, we basically do training for, anybody, government, individual, do anything from shooting, jumping out of planes, mountaineering, climbing, all that, into my other company, Six Shooters, which we work in the entertainment space, movies, TV, video games. So, yeah. And then, of course, my wife's company, which I'm directly involved in with a Practice of Positivity Grit program, which is a team building program that we do together in Las Vegas. But yeah, enjoy doing all of it. Down in LA a lot.
Are you on social media at all?
I am. Yep.
Still holding strong with like 7 or 8 followers?
I think I'm up to like 25 now.
Bitchin'.
No. No, dude. No, I'm on like Six Shooters. We have a site on Instagram, and then I'm on Instagram with my company too.
Tier 1.
Yep.
Global Consulting.
Steve, I don't even know my hashtag.
That's a really good job. It's amazing.
I'm terrible at social media. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's all good stuff.
I'll let you close it out. What do you want to close with? What questions do you have? I've been asking the questions.
What questions do I have? Wow.
How many jumps do you have now?
Close to, I'm coming up on 7,000.
Yeah.
7,000 jumps. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of part-time work out at Go Jump, Las Vegas, and really enjoying it. It's fun, taking people on the work on the schoolhouse side where we take people for their first jumps and like with their own parachute on their back, not a tandem, because that's not a first jump. That's an experience. But yeah, it's fun, man. I dig it. I don't really have any questions for you, Andy.
Perfect.
Yeah,
it's fine.
You have anything else for me?
No, I'm sure they'll be around too.
Totally.
All right, done.